Many countries are requiring a COVID test prior to your departure and your arrival overseas. The CDC, the US government, is also requiring a COVID test prior to your return back home. Now, I've got insider secrets on what specific tests are required. Not every test will do, where you can get them, and catch this: who is exempt from the CDC requirement? I'm Larry Gelwicks, the Getaway Guru. Welcome to my travel channel. The purpose of the Getaway Guru is really to help you see the world, travel more, and pay less. And if you're new to my travel channel, please remember the big three: subscribe, turn on all notifications, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. So, as we move through this pandemic and travel is really opening up now, we do want to hit the road again, don't we? But we want to do it in a healthy and safe manner. And as I mentioned, many destinations are requiring that you have a negative COVID test prior to your arrival. Keep in mind, not all international destinations are requiring this, just some of them. But the CDC has also added to that when you come home from overseas, an international destination, be that close in the Caribbean or Mexico or halfway around the world, you have to have a COVID test and negative results before boarding your flight back home. Well, today we're going to uncover the mystery, make it as simple as possible, because we're going to cover and talk about the COVID testing requirements for both your departure out of the United States and your return home. And I promised you an insider travel secret that not all persons returning home from an international or overseas destination, not all persons are required to have a negative COVID test. Well, stay tuned, and I'm going to let you in on who is exempt from the CDC rule. Now, sorting your way through the COVID testing can be really frustrating. I've got 4 questions I want you to ask and answer before you book your overseas trip. These need to be done prior to your departure. Question number 1: if the destination that I'm traveling to requires a COVID test, negative results, of course, what type of test is required? Is it a PCR, an antibody, an antigen, a rapid test, viral, nasal swab, saliva testing, and others? I've got some help for you. In the Columbus Travel blog, Where Can I Travel?, there's a list of countries that are open and welcoming U.S. and North American visitors. What are their entry requirements? And if a COVID test is required, there's a link in the blog that'll take you to the government website that's appropriate for your destination and tell you exactly what type of test to get. Now, in the link to the Columbus Travel blog, Where Can I Travel?, is included in the descriptions below. Question number 2, time frame. What's the time frame that is required to get your test results prior to travel? For example, if you need test results 72 hours prior to travel, is that 72 hours prior to departure? Or is it 72 hours prior to your arrival at your destination? Obviously, there's a pretty big difference. Question number 3. After taking the test, how long will it take me to get the results? Remember, if your test results require a 72-hour prior to travel requirement, when do you schedule the test that allows you to get your results back in a timely manner? How long will it take you to get those results from the testing facility? And finally, question number 4, where can I get tested? It's really important that before you choose a testing facility that you verify with that company that they will administer the specific COVID test that is required for wherever you're traveling. For example, Hawaii. Hawaii not only requires a very specific test, but they will only accept the results from companies that they have approved. Not every company, not every test will do. In the descriptions below, you're going to find some links to testing providers that offer both in-person and at-home COVID testing. For example, Vault and Costco. They both will offer a self-administered at-home saliva test. Another good company is Let's Get Checked. They offer a self-administered at-home nasal swab. Now, this is really great news, isn't it? You can actually take a COVID test self-administered in the comfort and privacy of your home. So, what I'm going to do now is walk you through the home testing procedure. The first step is pretty obvious in a self-administered home test. You got to order the test. Now, the testing kit will likely come via FedEx or UPS. You know, it's really important that you order this test in a timely manner so that it will arrive several days before your actual testing date. Remember, the time clock does not start when you receive the kit. It starts when you take the test. Now, scheduling an appointment is really easy. You simply go online at an email address or website provided. You'll wait for the next technician to come on, and that technician will be connected via Zoom or similar. The technician will then explain the procedure, answer all your questions of what you need to know and do to take the test. Then you will self-administer the test while the technician is watching to make sure that it's done properly and you don't get any delay because of the testing procedure. Next, you seal the test results. It's usually in like a test tube or vial. You'll seal that up. You'll package it in a return envelope provided by the testing facility. And now you want to take this to UPS or FedEx as soon as possible. Why? Because the time clock is now ticking. Generally, you're going to get the results back within, say, 24 to 48 hours after the testing facility receives your packet. And you generally get these online. Now, for in-person testing, where you actually have to go into a facility, you first want to check with your own personal doctor or healthcare provider. Maybe you have coverage like I do that covered the cost of the COVID test. Also included in the descriptions below are links to in-person testing facilities. I do like CVS and Walgreens. Now, I will give you a caution. Both of these companies at select locations have actual in-person testing facilities. But I found that sometimes it's hard to get an appointment. So you want to be checking early and get that appointment set because oftentimes they're completely full. You also want to check with major airports. We're seeing more and more airports actually have testing facilities inside the terminal or nearby. So, are you ready to start traveling again? Because I sure am. If you need a COVID test, I want you to ask and answer these 4 questions before planning your travel. What type of test is required? What's the time frame required prior to travel? How long will it take me to get the test results, and where can I get tested? Now, for a list of countries that are open and welcoming U.S. and North American visitors, go to the Columbus Travel blog. Where can I travel? There's a link in the descriptions below that'll take you right to it. Now, in the Where Can I Travel blog, you're going to find a list of countries that are open and welcoming to us and their entry requirements. Now, you'll notice that the countries are not listed alphabetically, but rather by ease of entry and entry requirements. If a COVID test is required, you'll see a link in that paragraph, in that description, in the blog that'll take you right to the appropriate government website for that country that will explain what type of test is needed. At the top of this video, I mentioned to you that if you're returning to the United States from an overseas or international destination, the CDC has expanded their negative COVID testing requirements. So if you're coming back home by air, you will need to have a viral COVID test. That's a PCR or viral antigen test within 72 hours of boarding your return flight home. Now, is this good news or bad news? Well, it does add another layer of something you have to do, but I think it's really, really good news. Why? Because it adds another layer of confidence that the people that you're around, the people on your flight, have all tested negative for COVID. Now, I'm also pleased to report that some hotels are actually offering the testing. I'm talking about overseas hotels, are offering the COVID testing in preparation for your return flight, absolutely free of charge, while some others have a nominal cost associated with it. Now, in the unlikely event that you test positive, first you'll be retested to see if it's a false positive result. But in the unlikely event that you actually do contract COVID and you test positive, many hotels and countries, destinations, are offering a traveler's protection where your lodging, your meals, your medical care are all taken care of. Now, this is one reason you really want to work with a professional travel advisor. Situations, requirements, and rules, don't they seem to be constantly changing? Talk to a professional who can give you the latest information. I also told you at the top of this video of a little known insider secret that not all persons returning home to the United States are required to have that return COVID test. Currently, the CDC requirements only apply to airline passengers. So if you're coming home and crossing the border by car, train, or bus, you are exempt. More likely, you're going to be coming home on a cruise ship. Currently, the return COVID test does not apply to you. Again, you want to stay current on the rules, deal with a travel professional. And I've got one more little known insider secret of a group that is exempted from return COVID testing. In the CDC rules, it states that if you've had COVID within the last 90 days, and of course fully recovered, bring documentation of that from an approved healthcare provider with you, and you are exempted from the COVID return testing. Well, we've covered a lot today, haven't we? In a very short period of time, we've talked about your COVID testing prior to your departure overseas and your return testing coming back home. Thank you for spending this time with me on the Getaway Guru Travel Channel. Please remember the big three: subscribe, turn on the notifications, and if you like this video, if you found it helpful, please give me a thumbs up. You know something else that's a lot of fun? If you write in the comments below, I will personally answer each and every question or comment that you list. I check every day, and I do look forward to hearing from you. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Columbus Travel, 800-373-3328, or online at columbusvacations.com. Stay healthy, stay safe, and as always, happy traveling.